You know, and another thing that we wanted to talk about, which is not at all related to wrestling, so no good segue there, is, you know, Dave Horowitz is going after Ron Paul. And it's something he's done before, but this time, you know, basically he is saying that for years, the Texas crackpot Ron Paul has been attacking America and Israel as important powers, the great Satan and little Satan. In case you missed that, that's Ron and Rand.
Rand, little mini Paul, mini Satan.
Little Satan, and calling for America to retreat from the battle against our totalitarian enemies. He also went on to say that Paul's Jew-hating stormtroopers descended on CPAC.
Jew-hating stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Who were those Jew-hating stormtroopers? Those are just libertarians like Ron Paulites are apparently all Jew-haters?
The Paulites. But basically this all came about because Ron Paul proposed some legislation that would cut some funding to Middle East countries, one of which was Israel, and he got a little bit upset and called Ron Paul an anti-Semite.
Well, you know, it just makes me so angry because you wonder why there's so much anger over these issues. It's because you can't even talk about Israel without instantly being labeled, you know, as somebody who's anti-Semitic. You can't have any kind of critique towards U.S. foreign policy, towards Israel, towards Israeli policy, towards the rest of the world without instantly being called an anti-Semite. You know, and that's just so wrong. It's so closed-minded.
We've been talking about defense spending as a sacred cow. Talking about Israel as the sacred cow. I mean, you cannot bring up any sort of changes to Israel foreign policy without somehow being demonized and, you know, essentially losing your entire political career. I mean, I think what's actually more interesting in this case is that he was able to bring this up, and even though he, of course, got flack from certain conservatives like Horowitz, the fact that you can say this and actually get away with it in this environment, I think, is an actual nice change, because we're dealing with such an incredible financial situation where we have to put all of these issues on the tables. We have to consider these kinds of cuts. And, you know, to keep the, you know, aid to Israel some sort of sacred cow at a time when we need to reconsider our funding to all kinds of countries, I think just hurts this country even more.
Well, and I think an important thing to point out, too, is that the aid to Israel that would be cut is 1% of the cuts that he was proposing overall to the Middle East.
Yeah, and we're talking about education and defense spending and all kinds of other cuts. And I mean, you know, it's just funny because I remember a few months ago we did an interview with Congressman Brian Baird, who's retiring, and it was the first time, you know, a congressman really called for cutting aid to Israel. And it used to be that you could only say that when you were in the waning time of your career, and I guess now you can say it and potentially remain in office.
Oh, good. A little bit of reality has finally sunk into somebody.